So in today's video, we are gonna get rid of this crazy wheel gap on the Audi S3. In a previous video, we installed these really sick ESR wheels and the fitment is spot on, nice and flush. However, the wheel gap has got to go. As you can see, that is no good. It's like 3 fingers almost, and same with the back. But what do we have today to install on the S3?
We got some springs.
So these are H&R lowering springs. I have these on my Supra, currently have them on the GTR. Now where can people order these H&R springs from?
Brosforspeed.com.
Yep, we have H&R products on our website linked below. We have these sport lowering springs for the S3 along with H&R's adjustable lowering springs and sway bars if you want all that. So we have all those listed below, and we also have lowering springs for the GTR, Supra, and 370Z. H&R is seriously such a solid brand. I love using them, and we have their nice kit right here. It should lower this about 0.75 of an inch, so 3/4 of an inch. I think that'll be a perfect drop. All right, let's go ahead and check out the stock setting for the front wheel.
According to my calculations, it's not low enough.
That is right, we are at 26 and like a line or two under a half. And the back, I'd say about the same, 26 and this is more like 26 and 1/4. So we'll write that down and then we'll see what kind of drop we get with the new springs. But with that out of the way, let's get this thing up on jack stands and get to work.
2 hours later.
All right, so literally 2 hours later fighting getting this passenger side strut out, there's one aspect to it which is insanely tedious if it doesn't pop out easily. I've seen some videos where they make it look a lot easier. So with that said, if you want to come down here and take a look, it's actually pretty straightforward on everything that we need to remove. So right here, this is the sway bar end link. You're gonna have a bolt on the backside right up there. And then you can see we also have this strut bolt right there. And then on the other side, you are gonna need the M14, which is this guy right here. And that will correspond to the other side of the bolt, which is sitting right on the backside. And then the last thing you have to do is the plug for the magnetic ride, if you do have magnetic ride. That's gonna be at the underside of the strut right up there. You just wanna make sure you unplug that. That way you're not obviously going to rip that out. So with those bolts out, that's the easy part. Next up, this piece right here that kind of sandwiches the strut in it, you're supposed to be able to basically pry it open just a little bit, and that should give you enough clearance to slide the strut right out, or really this whole assembly is gonna slide down off of the strut. From what I found, and this is the same thing that happened when I had the Toyota Supra, these European cars, something about them, it is impossible to get this apart. I have no clue why it's not working on my car. Other videos I've seen, they make it look so easy by just a little bit of pressure with like a crowbar or something, and it spreads that apart. Not my case. So what I'm using is part of my spring compressor. Of course, you're gonna need this if you're gonna be doing this modification. And what I've found, I can rest it on the aluminum knuckle down here and actually tighten this up to the bottom portion of where the spring is. And as you can see, what I'll do is just take a wrench and slowly tighten this. And then every little bit, I'll pry this apart and this whole assembly will pop down. So right there, as you heard, that's slowly popping the strut down. All right, so that was a lot quicker than the other side, but still takes a lot of tedious time. So from there, I'm gonna start getting the top of the strut out. All you gotta do is pull that up. Then we have 2 bolts here. This little piece will pop right off. Then take a 10mm on this one little tiny bolt. And with that bolt off, we can now loosen these strut tower bolts. And from there, you just pull this black piece up a little bit and get this plastic looking bolt off. And then you can move this whole black thing out of the way and get to the final bolt. With the strut tower bolts out, we have the pry bar back in that aluminum knuckle area. We're gonna try to spread it apart while I wiggle this strut. Hopefully I can actually get it out this time. All right, and there we go. We've got the strut out. That one only took 1 hour, so we are cutting our time in half. So on to disassembling the coil springs now to putting the new H&R springs. You're gonna need a set of spring compressors. Obviously you already saw me kind of use them to help get that apart. I'll have these linked on Amazon, they're really inexpensive. But from here, you just wanna sit them in there nicely. And then of course use an impact gun to help get you to tighten everything down. So we got one side on, then you're just gonna flip it around, and we'll do the same on this side now. And then now it's time to just pull the strut apart. Right, so we'll just slowly disassemble. You got the nut on the top, this rubber piece, the boot, of course the spring, and then the coil spring. You want to be able to read the writing, so just slide that right on it. And then from there, the lowering spring obviously is a little bit shorter, so by hand we can actually get this nut on. So we're just going to slide this up a little bit, and then pushing that down a little bit. All right, we got that on the top. And then just try to push this so it's gonna line up. All right, with everything lined up, now if we just push the floor jack up a little bit, we can slowly kind of slide it into place. So then with the strut all the way back in, just go ahead and plug it in, get your sway bar end link in, and then line up the top here and get the strut tower bolts all squared away. It's also worth mentioning I did take out this plastic cover in the center because now I can tighten up the center bolt. It's a lot easier doing it on the car, completely tightening it, than it is down on the ground. So then onto the rear of the S3, this is insanely simple. So I'm very glad that the rear is super easy to do. All we do is have these two bolts right there for the lower portion of the shock, as well as this control arm, and then this little one right up there, which is part of the sway bar end link. Alright, on to installing the new rear one. Of course, have the writing to where you can read it. Take this rubber piece and just kind of pop it into place into this top center piece. Kind of got to twist it in a little bit and then twist it until it lines up with the factory one. And then from here, when you slide it in, you'll want to kind of twist it into place just like we just did on this upper one. And there will be a natural spot where it stops, just like the stock one did. And we'll just lift this up. Next up, grab the shock, very easy to line up. And once again, just get it centered and then lift this cradle up until it lines nicely. And once again, we'll just line it up. And the thing I found to use, take a hammer in between the knuckle area and that shock. All right, 7 short hours later, the front kind of gave us a little bit of a hard time, as I mentioned in the video. And the trick we found when I put them back together, I was off by about a ½ of an inch. They weren't quite all the way going back into the part of that aluminum piece on the front end. So what we did, we put the wheels back on and just went ahead and lowered the car back to normal, did the whole rear, and by the time we did that, they actually slid back into place. So we got the fronts in just because we did that. So now, moment of truth, can the Audi S3 get out of the driveway? So let's take a look at this side. Looks nice and good, and I don't even think we have any bit of a ground clearance issue. We have probably 3-4 inches. And as we look at this side, all right, go ahead and slowly go out. That wheel fits nicely in there and just barely tucks without any rubbing. But already that is looking so good. That is literally the perfect ride height. I don't think I could ask for anything better on the S3. That looks so sick. And these wheels really do now come together. Gosh, that is looking so good. That fitment is just spot on. Man, I can't believe it. That was maybe like a 7-hour job, mainly because those fronts really gave us a problem. The rears, that was the easiest thing in the world, but the fronts, I just couldn't open up those pieces on the bottom part there. But now, gosh, that looks good. All right, wifey, what do you think now your car is all done up? We got the wheels, tires, and the lowering springs. What you think?
Well, I love it.
Yeah?
I mean, like, at it. So good. Like that drop, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It looks so good. Remember the wheel gap this used to have?
Yeah, you can't fit, like, you can fit maybe one finger in there.
We went from 3 to 1, perfect. All right, let's measure it now and see what our new measurements are. So before this was 26.5 plus like 2 of the lines. Now we're at 25.5 minus 1 of them. Now it might settle just a little bit overnight, maybe 1/10 of an inch. And then the rear, it used to be 26 1/4. Now we're 25 and about 3/4.
At first I was a little unsure because there was like a big gap, but now that I see it, like it's good now.
Yeah. All right, well, Wifey approves, which is, that's the deal maker right there, because I can play with the car as long as she likes it. I love it though, like I'm seriously impressed. So this is the 3rd set of H&R springs I've done. My Supra, my GTR, which by the way, sitting right here on the H&R springs, love them. And with the S3, just like the Supra, just like the GTR, it retains all the magnetic ride. So there's no warning lights or anything that popped up. I can still enjoy comfort mode or dynamic mode. And I'll make a full review when I get the alignment done on exactly how the car rides now. But first impressions, it just looks absolutely spot on. The S3 is coming together. And the crazy thing is, in real time, I've done the exhaust, intake, the wheels, tires, and springs in 2 weeks. This is the quickest I've ever done anything to a car. Might be a little spread out on YouTube, but this is a lot of mods in just 2 weeks on the car, getting it really looking good. So with that said, I hope you all enjoyed the video installing the H&R Sport lowering springs on the Audi S3. Remember, we have them on our website, brosforspeed.com. Same with GTR parts, Z's parts, Tacoma parts, and Supra parts. So this thing's looking real good now, and definitely check out our website for several other parts. Everything on it now, you can find them on our website. But hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.